right, hello everyone, and welcome back to Vassals of Kingsgrave for another edition of our House of the Dragon podcast. I don't know, DragonCast, all the Targaryen cast, whatever we will call this, a season 2 preview cast, which is only a few weeks away now. That's Memorial Day weekend. My name is Adam, also known as drownedsnow on the Discords and the forums and various things. And today I am joined by...
This is Casey, Blue-Eyed Queen.
This is Michal, inkasrain.
And this is Stephanie, gsdg.
All right, and we may be joined by a few other vassals as we go along here, and we'll pop them in as that happens. But so we're gathering here because House of the Dragon Season 2 is coming. It's imminent. I kind of forgot it was this year, like everything else. And so let's just discuss with where we left off last season, and then we'll get into Season 2, some of the trailers, maybe some casting spoilers. This might also include spoilers for anything in Song of Ice and Fire, World of Ice and Fire, maybe some of the Game of Thrones stuff, maybe not. Just
Fire and Blood.
Fire and Blood, yeah. All of the writings of George R. Martin. Whatever, short stories, anything. Just, yeah. So just fair warning in case stuff comes up. So where did we end last season? Season 1, episode 10 was the battle. Not really a battle, but
It was
Storm's
End.
Storm's End, yeah.
It was the chompening.
Ending with Daemon delivering the news to Rhaenyra, and she silently
Oh yeah, that's the final shot,
emotes to
isn't
the
it?
camera, delivering the line that was not uttered in the dialogue. They have stolen my crown and killed my children, and now they shall answer for it.
Yeah, and we get big chomp from Vhagar. Vhagar, bad girl, doesn't listen. And Aemon having his oh shit moment, and I'm so sad we don't get to see him go back and be like, so a thing happened.
I think we're gonna get some of that. Yeah,
That's gotta be the first thing.
It's gotta be.
I think we're picking up right away, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that's got to be him landing either him landing at the dragon pit or him like walking in and be like, "Hey, mom, by the way," is probably going to be our first scene. We could be wrong.
Hey, I got rid of one dragon rider for us. Aren't you proud, Mom?
Totally intentionally. It was on purpose. Hashtag meant to do that.
And then she responds with, no, you're not my golden child anymore. It's Helena. Once Blood and Cheese happens, that's Helena.
Yeah, we got to talk about that because I hope they change some things around with Blood and Cheese. But I think the most interesting aspect of, and maybe this is why they saved it for the next season, especially because you end with that and then you just fade to black. But I think the most interesting aspect is he's been like, hey, I want your eye, like strong boys. Like he's been very antagonistic, and then in the moment we see him be like, oh shit, I was just playing. Like, so I'm like, how does that come through? Does it come through? Does he just own it?
See, this is not to get on my horse of like this show is actually awesome. Except that I do in fact love the show. Or at least after season 1, I love the show. I hope I still continue to love the show during and after season 2. But I adore that adaptive change, right? Because in a history, all we're getting is there was a battle and one of them died. And we assume that he meant to kill him. But it allows for so much more nuance and like shading of character motivations, because like Aemond could well have chased Jace up into the clouds being like, I'm gonna kill this fucking kid. And then once it actually happens, he's like, wait, I didn't mean to do, like I feel like that's a very human reaction. But I also feel like that we're going to see how the history plays out, because he is not going to be playing the regretful note when he lands. I feel like he's going to be acting like he meant to do it, and that's like a huge
yeah, or it could be both.
History.
He could be acting like he's meant to do it to the public, but he could be acting like in private, like, well, shit, this was an accident.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if we see him like alone, or yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious.
My theory is he's going to go straight to Otto, and just like have him kind of deal with the blow before it getting to Alicent. But we'll see.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it's like right in the book that she doesn't like that, and then also just like this, like with the like really fucked up family dynamics on Team Green. It's like this is right now in season 1 as it stands. Like what's different from the source material is that the only in the book the only child she shows any sort of affection to, at least in public, is Helena at Aegon's coronation, and like I've gotten this. It's like it from like the later episodes of season 1. It seems like since Aemon's eye got put out, that he's had the crown of golden child within the family, probably working towards.
I don't know. I feel like Alicent didn't exhibit that. Like, definitely during the eye gouging scene and aftermath. Like, she was definitely very protective of Aemond. But I didn't really get that once we switched actors. Like, I felt like he was very standoffish, and I didn't really feel like Alicent was especially like buddy with any of her kids. I feel like she was, she is in the position of frankly not being that much older than they are, and like she hates Aegon. I don't know. Anyway, it's not really that important, but I agree it will definitely be interesting to see how the dynamic plays out from here. Although I would also like to say that I really think that Alicent book and Alicent show are very, very different characters.
Very different.
I don't necessarily. I mean, obviously, we can and should use the book, but I don't think that it's like this was her motivation in the book, so this is her motivation in the show, because they completely revamped that, much to the better, I think.
I don't like the fact that they tried to soften her a bit with like the succession aspect of it, where she's kind of like caught off guard, and Viserys, it was his dying wish. I don't like that, but otherwise I do like what they've done with her in changing her motivations and making her less of like the maniacal
I agree,
queen.
With that beat, it's just like the show is trying to have its cake and eat it too, and it's it's like like for someone who's had it rough as she has, to be like consistent is on the one hand it's maybe we shouldn't expect that, but then
I think they need to lean more into the faith aspect on her, because she's supposedly become very religious,
right? But
we need to see more of that expressed towards the children too, right?
Right, and if that's the case, and it's just like, okay, like how, if it's actually sincere on your part, and if you were that unhappy in season 1, then like there is an option within the society for you to just go, and
while she's married to Viserys,
get out of the palace. Look, like you can get out of like of a marriage and still have the good faith of like your child's legitimacy being recognized, right? Like Eleanor.
Yeah, I don't think that was an option for her, though. Not with the family. Like the Otto was very like consistent on his, I guess,
he
position.
He was not in court for however long it was.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think.
And Viserys, for all of his faults, actually wants the people around him to be happy. For all of his faults. Yeah, I
mean, I just don't really think Alicent was like, I'm going to stay miserable. Like, I don't think that was her. I don't know. We're getting a little off track.
Divorce is not a thing for them, I believe, right? I mean, but she
and the separation, like,
annulled.
What
I don't know.
What are their names? Jaehaerys and Alysanne separated a couple times, but like, there was never an end of the marriage.
They're like they're physically not around each other. She could have traveled or gone back home or something, but.
Yeah, but anyway, I mean,
kids and stuff. Yeah.
If we spend all the time talking about Alicent's psychology, I will stay here for hours. So.
Yeah, so let's round back on number 1. How did you guys prepare for season 2 here? I rewatched season 1. I watched all of the behind the scenes. They have like episode by episode like production episodes, which I didn't realize there were 10 of them, which was very good. It showed a lot of like the sets and effects and had a little more extra details on the from the actors and the showrunners on the characters and whatnot. And then of course I watched all of the trailers, and I'm like halfway through reading The Princess and the Queen again. But
nerd.
Yeah, it's the quick one. I'm like, I can read that quick. And
Oh yeah, I reread all of Fire and Blood for this.
Like cover to cover.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
But
I wish I could do that.
I still haven't rewatched season 1 though, so it's.
I will say rewatching like reminds me of just how good this show was. I mean, I think we were surprised because we didn't know what to expect. I was like hesitantly optimistic, and then most of the episodes were very good. There were a couple kind of so-so episodes, but there's so many great scenes. The acting, I mean, Patty Constantine, obviously, throughout. Just they made a lot of choices that really worked on this show. I'm like, I almost want to like go back and re-listen to our podcast to like see if how my opinion has been shaped or changed over time.
It's not a bad idea.
I maintain it's a good show.
Yeah. No, I mean, because I remember I liked it as it aired and stuff. I probably had more gripes about it then than I did with a second viewing. I just enjoyed it the whole way through. So.
Oh yeah, I can just say from the from the last episode or episode 9 really, and from some of the trailers, I'm coming around on the casting of older Aegon. It looks like he is bringing a campy wit that's has more of an edge to it than Joffrey. So.
He ever since he walked out to get to do the coronation, I'm like, it's the lead singer from My Chemical Romance. This is gonna be great. I love this.
Black Parade has begun.
Like the second he asked, do you love me? It made the character more real to me, and just how it was, just like it's good because it communicated that he's actually not stupid, and he's like smart enough to pick up on the fact that into like actually like call his mother out first.
I'm excited. I think the actor described Aegon as a walking nightmare.
Yeah.
Which he certainly is. But I think, I don't know, but for prep, you guys all have the advantage of me. I watched the trailers and listened to some podcasts. I'm not going to rewatch the season or reread. I haven't read Fire and Blood since it came out, so I keep like texting Katie, like, which battle is this? Who are we talking about? I don't remember.
Yeah, I also really have not done much, whether it's lack of free time or just, I do like to go into the season kind of blind. Like, I like that we do this podcast before every season of something related to Game of Thrones, and it gets me back up on everything. But otherwise, I'm, I don't do as much, who's been cast and who is this. I kind of like to be somewhat surprised and go in a little bit blind. Obviously, I'm on this podcast, so I don't care about whatever is going to be talked about. But that's other than TikTok, I guess. There's so much like that I get on my feed that's like, here are the daughters of Jaehaerys, and like, oh yeah, there's all that, and going back through TikToks. Fire and Blood.
I hear you, Katie or Casey. I don't really watch trailers for stuff I know that I'm going to watch, but
I watched the trailers for sure.
Oh no, yeah, for this I made an exception, but like they put all the best action bits in trailers usually, so it's just like I want to see, if I come in expecting a big set piece for the movie, I want to experience that in its proper context and not watch it 10 times in the trailer.
Right.
Yeah, some movies, everything good is in the trailer for sure.
Right. Mm-hmm. I go to if it's in the cinema and the trailer is part of the previews, I won't walk away. Right. I'll watch the damn trailer, but I won't seek it out and watch it on loop 1,000 times because that ruins the excitement.
I find that like for me personally, it used to be like a lot of this stuff. Like like I'd watch the trailers and I'd like see whatever behind the scenes photographs or whatever they had. Like if it would just come up and I'd be like, oh, this is interesting because there's just not as much stuff being released. And it was sort of, you're like, oh yeah, I know that's coming in 6 months. And now I feel like I'm just kind of surprised whenever anything drops on Netflix or in the theater, where I'm like, oh crap, House of the Dragon's almost back. Well, shit. So like then this podcast was the motivation. I'm like, well, I should rewatch and go through and do all that. But
It's
there's
nice
like a whole
to not be
cottage
preemptively
industry.
Disappointed.
Right. There's a whole cottage industry about like breaking down all the trailers and analyzing the casting and all that stuff, which is, I mean, there are people that are into that, and it's fine. I just feel like there's so much content now that like I'd rather be watching like some oddball show that I've put off for 6 months than doing that.
Yeah, and I think at least for me, I was more interested in watching the trailers to find out, or to see if there was any hint of where they would leave off for the second season.
That's what,
because
me
it's
too.
still an open question. It's still an open question of how many seasons they'll go, right? Because and then it's also a question of how much budget do they want to put towards, or of the season's budget do they want to put towards this dragon battle, right?
Yeah, and I was trying to pick out new dragons from the trailer. Pretty sure we saw Moon Dancer. And then did we see Sea Smoke again? I think in one of the trailers. Because I know I had to look this up because I guess apparently they cast. Is it Adam Valerian or?
I think they cast both of them.
What's his name in the? I think
Alan,
he's got a
Adam
name.
and Alan.
Yeah, and what's his name?
By the way, I need to again give this show props because like the rule in TV is like make names as easy as possible, and they were just like no.
Rhaenyra, Rhaenys.
Everyone has almost the same name, and you're just gonna have to deal with it.
They're like, we got 2 Aegons, suck it.
Yep.
And honestly, that's like one of the things as a book reader I think we all appreciate greatly.
Oh yes. Remember Talisa? Anyway.
Osha.
Right, Osha.
Yara. Yeah. It's okay.
Anyway.
It's cool. It's all good. Everything is good. Let's talk about probably what's gonna be the big reaction piece in the first episode in the premiere, I would assume anyway. Is going to be Blood and Cheese, and I think we see them in the trailer briefly. I think we see people sneaking through the secret passages or whatever. How do you think they're going to handle this? Do you think they're going to mostly keep it in line with what's done in the book, or I hope at the very least like Helena doesn't like just get broken and useless in episode 1?
I don't
because I like Alicent, clearly that's like her favorite, and a lot of people have been like protect Helena, and I don't know, I would be happy if maybe like she doesn't just like go catatonic after this, but I also wouldn't be surprised if that's where they go.
I team protect Helena, and actually she's one of the I'm like, once they changed Laenor's fate, I'm like, can we let's continue the creativity, guys. I like this this role we're on. Let's change the character's ending. Yeah, I don't know. I have 2 interesting theories that may kind of border on spoilers if people are okay, because they're not spoilers. They're just like educated guesses that are interesting that I wouldn't have thought of before.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the first one is that Helena is like sewing what looks like a shroud in like part of the trailer, and people think that might actually be before Blood and Cheese. So she's just, because she has her, spiritual.
Oh, that's
side.
delicious.
Yeah, I know, right? The other is even better though. Apparently they have cast Cheese, but we don't or haven't seen the face of anyone playing Blood. So the theory is that it's actually just going to be Daemon. And like, now I'm like, I mean, yeah, and I'm like, actually, I mean, I feel like Fire and Blood, the house words, that is actually almost like obvious. And would I think help the moral equivalency issues that we have maybe between Team Green and Team Black.
Is
like
that
if Daemon
how gets himself out of the doghouse for choking Rhaenyra?
Well, that depends, right? Because that depends how nice they're making Rhaenyra. Because they've made her very nice.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I actually
the trailer
really
implies no.
Yeah. I really like that theory just because I think that it's like a great way of using. I think I heard this on either House of R or History of Westeros. One of those is, each theory belongs to one of those. But like, yeah, I think that's a great way of kind of getting Daemon's hands even dirtier than just arranging payment, and like, yeah,
It gets his hands dirtier, but I feel like it's such a risk. Like on his side, it's such a risk. I don't know if the audience is going to buy him taking that risk.
Yeah,
You
but
know?
then there's also the fact of like the original crime to begin with, of just like, why kill a child with a hatchling when you could kill Aemond and leave Vhagar unclaimed again? Because he's back at the Red Keep at that point, right? Because, okay, so what happens in the book is that they go to the Tower of the Hand because that's not in Maegor's Holdfast, and or allegedly, is what the Maester says, is that there's no known secret passage into Maegor's Holdfast that's not, or it's, so the only way that anyone knows of is the plank, the plank over the dry moat to
Right.
to get in. So that's why they go to the Tower of the Hand.
That's
which
the
is
safe
where
room.
Alicent's, right. So that's where Alicent's chambers are since the coronation, and so that's why people know that there's the routine to go visit Alicent before bedtime. But yeah, it's always not optimal, but then it's like, that's also true to the conflict on which is based on, where both sides made unfold errors.
Yeah, and I guess
just feel like if Daemon's in there, isn't he going for blood? Like, not he's not going to kill kids. I mean, maybe, but like, he's like, well, if I can just kill Aegon, I can kill Aemon. Like, I do feel like he would be all for that. I mean, this is the guy that they showed us in, I think it was like episode 3 or whatever, with the crab eater, who just like goes for it, pretty much unprotected, right?
Yeah.
yeah, he's not a strategic thinker as much as And I like the idea, just though, that he would, well, I mean, no, because we know from season 1 that he has a lot of passageways in and out, so maybe he wouldn't even need cheese. I don't know, but obviously I think cheese is in there. But like, isn't that why they like need cheese, because cheese knows all the secret passageways in the book?
Yep, because he's a rat catcher.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then Blood is he's one of the gold cloaks, right?
Right.
So he's sort of the one that I think Daemon can rely on to do the task.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. Like, I just think it's a very interesting idea of like centering the action more on main characters as opposed to guys we're never going to see again, basically.
Right, and then also if Mysaria is going to be the go-between, it gives like them to have a chance to have more interaction besides just him sending her a raven. But
yes, so excited to see Mysaria.
And but yeah, I don't know. I do find it the original way. It is interesting to preserve, or just like the ambiguity of like the buck stops here, that would go well with Aemon's chase and how he's going to play it off when he returns to King's Landing. So
yeah, like personalizing even more than even more personalizing that conflict.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're in for it in episode 1. I think we're going right for it, and a lot of the rest of the season will be the ripples of that.
Yep.
Gonna be great. It's gonna be wonderful.
How do you think this is gonna work? Because one of the strongest aspects of season 1 was Alicent and Rhaenyra being able to play off of each other, both sets of like the younger and older actors. So they're not going to be seeing each other. I don't think at all this season. So, how do you think that's going to play? Like, basically losing that entire dynamic and any sort of like undertones or anything going on there is just not going to be on screen.
I think I would respect the show if they actually did that instead of contrived an excuse for Alicent to go on a peace mission to Dragonstone or whatever.
Yeah, that wouldn't make any sense.
And because they spent so much time in season 1, rightfully demonstrating about how the children have inherited this conflict and how, how this this cycle of enmity has taken on a life of its own with the next generation. That I think, before we start killing off the younger characters, then this is the time to let those out shine. I'm excited
curious.
for the Winterfell bro down, so
I'm curious.
A nice happy thing in the middle of all the race to the bottom.
Yeah. I think I do wonder what's in the trailer. They have some of those like very long like those scenes where they're looking at both Alicent and Rhaenyra kind of like staring out into something. I do wonder if maybe they are writing to each other throughout all of this. And I assume that those letters were eventually burned, which is why we would have nothing in the books about them. But I wonder if that's how they kind of keep that relationship alive in that kind of way. Also, like...
Oh, maybe they use, like, pseudonyms?
Maybe. I think that they might keep it from others. Like, they might be, Rhaenyra might be keeping them from Daemon and Alicent from whoever, Otto. Foot guy, I forget his name.
Is that what she's paying... If that's what she's paying Laris with her feet to do this season.
Is it like, are these like ravens, or are they being like hand delivered, secretly?
Mushroom is doing it.
Mushroom. Dang it, Mushroom.
That's his task of honor.
Between those,
not portrayed in the show.
That's why Mushroom sees so much.
I don't know. I do really like the idea of, part of my concern is that I thought that season 1, for the most part, and, as I'm praising season 1, definitely had some real stupid parts. Don't get me wrong. But, like, I thought that they handled the quiet politics and the political escalation of eventual violence really well. And I am concerned that most of the rest of the story is just like, dragon, dragon, dragon. Like, it's,
Secret dagger.
Small folk die, small folk die, small folk die. So that is something I'm interested in. I would actually really like it if there was an ongoing, I could see Rhaenyra writing to Alicent after Blood and Cheese to try and secretly clear the air. Or, I mean, insofar as you can, and maybe that starts a correspondence. I don't know, because they've set this up as the core relationship of the show. And I think not that it can't change, but like I do wonder how they'll, kind of bring that back around in the end. It could also be that Daemon and Rhaenyra take King's Landing way earlier. Like that could also happen.
Well, yeah, because eventually they will be back together, but I just don't think that would be this season, especially because if we want to get into like where they're going to end up, like they've cut the season to 8 episodes, so there's only so much ground they can cover. I'm sure they want to deliver, Harrenhal and what is the with Mellies? What's the battle?
Rook's Rest.
Rook's Rest, yeah, that's the one. So I'm sure that they're going to have a lot of stuff like that. Like, there was, heavily featured, armies and politics, and we see the North and all that. But I don't think they necessarily have time for certain things. Like, it doesn't seem that they've cast Nettles.
They haven't, as far as we know.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that Darren's going to show up. I mean, even though I know Martin said, like, oh no, he's there.
He's
'cause
gonna
I
show
didn't
up with dark brown hair because Kristen Cole is his daddy. Anyway,
I did recall at one point, when I was rewatching, they mentioned, what was it? They were talking about, like, I think it was Otto, maybe, was saying how many dragons they had, and I'm counting, and I'm like, that doesn't account for Darren. But anyway, they
no, they
were a
didn't even
dragon
mention
short.
Darren in season 1, which was weird.
Yeah.
And that's why I have still a kernel of hope there's something up with him that
But
I
that
don't know.
just doesn't make sense for Alicent's character to have. Okay, so like, here's the what's getting in the way of my or of like me getting on board with the Helena Aemon is that I don't think that Helena would be able to keep that kind of a secret, considering just like all the, or like considering like some of the things she says are not entirely.
You mean like Helena and Aemond having a relationship?
Yeah. Or
Oh, I
hinting
think that is pure fanon, in my opinion. I mean, not that my theory isn't, but like, I keep hearing people talk about how close they are, and I'm like, they don't interact. He doesn't say anything nice to or about her, except that one, like, when they're kids, like, oh, I'd marry her. Like, that's it. That's literally it, guys.
Look,
I mean, I'd love the
Like
idea of the
Sandor
relationship.
and
It's very
Sansa had that
compelling.
going
Yeah.
on.
it's a
but
good
it's,
idea. I just don't buy it for that.
Yeah, I don't see it in the text either.
It's not like Aegon knows those kids' names either, But still.
Right. And also, I mean, Aegon would not care. So, like, that is,
But then it's just like, it's just like that is just like, why would she be so, or I guess that explains why she's so upset about Rhaenyra's bastards. But
yeah, I mean, I just think this is totally my headcanon. The only reason I can see it maybe theoretically becoming canon in the show with Alicent and Kristen Cole and Darren, A plus C equals T, I guess, is just because they've been playing. I'm sorry, I know. But they've been playing keep away with Darren, so like it seems deliberately when they could have just like dropped his name in something. That's the only reason. Other than that, it's really just my headcanon, just being like, right. I want Alicent to have been happy for 5 seconds.
Oh yeah, no, but like like would that spoil the payoff of like they finally get down right before he leaves to go take care of
I'm also for that. I'm also very for that.
And then as he calls her.
Although, I mean, in one of the trailers, like Aemond and Kristen and the actress have said that they spent a lot of time together this season. So like they seem to be really tight, and Aemond seems to be like very over mommy, like not into that at all.
Addressing her as Alicent.
Like,
calling your mom by your first name, bro.
Yeah, so I don't know where Kristen Cole like plays in that, because I do find that relationship quite interesting, even though it's like very messed up. But like we'll see if he's torn between like Aemond's sort of attempt to take control of the situation and his undeniable competence, it must be said, except for controlling his dragon from eating little boys, and his loyalty to Alicent. It'll be interesting where he falls out. I keep forgetting about Larys. Has Larys even been in any of the trailers? I don't think so.
He does speak. I forget. I think it's the last trailer. He talks about like the hardest enemy is the enemy within, or something like that. Basically.
Oh, okay, that's him. Okay.
Yeah, he's like, it says like enemies without you can fight with swords, but enemies within are trickier or something like that. And that's the only part that's Larry's, I believe.
Interesting.
I'm sure we're going to get a lot more on him. Hopefully not involving the foot fetish thing.
I will be interested to see if they
better
be
involving the foot fetish thing. Sorry.
Every time he comes into the room, like, I have secrets, and Alicent's like, yes, and he's just like sitting there tapping his toe, like waiting, and she's like, okay, here.
You can't
hold
just
1 foot,
You can't not lean into that after last season. It was hilarious. Like,
they got such backlash.
So what?
I just don't know. Like, I don't know.
I mean,
like Alicent's in a different position.
Breaking its pledge that is kind of the show breaking its pledge that they're not going to depict sexual, like,
Oh,
mean,
really? Did they
right,
really do that?
It is like I mean, I think they said that during the publicity for season 1. I don't know because I didn't really look at that, but around the time of episode 9, I did look at some critic stuff. But then it's, because like it's still like extortion with, like it's not the sensationalized stuff of the Throne Show, but that's what's being depicted. So.
Well, I just mean from like a disability standpoint. I think a lot of people were very like turned off by that as that specific. Right. I was torn because I like a God, how to word this? I think I said this when we were podcasting, but like having Alicent expose her feet to Larry's is to me the perfect way of her servicing him sexually while being able to tell herself that she's not. And and like there's kind of nothing else that would like, unless he had like an elbow thing or whatever,
No, we did we had this discussion about like like the backdoor loophole sort of thing in real life. Like it makes her feel like she's still chaste, but I also feel like now that she's like her son's the king, like does she really need to be bartering with him this way?
If she has a secret correspondence with Rhaenyra, then like this would be how she gets it, right? To get it from the maester if it's a raven, or to have a
right. I guess someone who absolutely she can trust and her hands are off of it in case something happens.
And,
right. I mean, it's
also
that's true.
It's worth saying also, I think that like out of, especially coming off of last season, I think much more Alicent, but to a certain extent Rhaenyra also, they're being disempowered by the male structures around them, right? Like Daemon is taking over this war. Like, I mean, if Rhaenyra is like involved in Blood and Cheese, I will be absolutely shocked. Like that is his initiative, his idea, as far as we know. Like Alicent seems to be like, no worry, no, don't do the war. So I and nobody's listening to her. And we got this in episode 9 when, which is actually interesting. It's one reason why I'm not so mad about the her overhearing Aegon, because when they were like, yeah, the council was going to do this anyway, like, and we just didn't tell you, to me that is an interesting way of balancing kind of the inevitability of the coup versus the way Alicent would think about it. But that's a different discussion. But yeah, I think they're both kind of being somewhat marginalized in no small part by their children, and like, whether it's intended or not. And like it'll be a very interesting dynamic. Again, it comes down to a lot of like the central value of the show being this relationship or not.
Yeah, no, and also in Team Black of just Corlys would, or they can totally change this, but like when Jace comes back from Winterfell, that's when he names Corlys Hand. But between then is when Rhaenys dies at Rook's Rest, so there is a lot of Corlys's leverage with his ships and how he's how he might be flexing his muscles to steer the Black strategy in a certain direction or not.
What do you guys think? If you've seen the trailers, there are several shots of I promise I'm not obsessed, except I am, of Alicent in like kind of her nightgown, like swimming or like running through fields or something. And it's a very like weird
dream sequence.
Lady of the Lake-ish type of.
That was one of the scenes I thought that she might be like reading a letter alone. Like, I think that if there's conversations between Alicent and Rhaenyra, it might be a little bit. I don't know if saying gay-coded is the right word for it, but they're
belonging.
Yes. Like, her being in that kind of an outfit might symbolize her wanting to be
free.
in that innocence again.
Yeah.
But no, if this is going to be like, I don't know how they shot like the what is it, not the Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, about how like Rey and Kyle Ron were drunk texting each other through the Force or whatever.
Oh yeah, I mean, those were really well done. I like those interactions.
Well, no, but you're talking about like technically, like they might like look like they're talking to each other, but actually it's
yeah,
Oh,
but then
but it
it's
won't
also
be.
like dry, but it's also it's all shot in like a very like like Casey said, a very way that reinforces the longing, or how like in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley, it's just her and Mr. Darcy dancing with in the crowd.
Yeah, or it could just be a bunch of like awkward cuts from like, we're cutting into your grayscale to hot pie.
Oh my god. But if it's not,
guys, you just have to take the grayscale off. That's all you have to do.
No one ever thought about shaving the grayscale,
Right?
Yeah, the thing is that Danny sort of forgot about shaving the grayscale. All right, sorry, I took us back there.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but it sounds wonderful. In a so bad it's good way.
Let's bring us back to something comforting and warm and Winterfell. we're gonna get a lot of Winterfell, right?
I'm ready. This is going to, it's just going to be a nice breather between all of the despair and tragedy.
It's going to be the Robb Starkification of Jacaerys.
That is a good way of putting it.
No, Cregan's a bro. Okay, we need to establish him because he's like a down ass bro, and well, look, we're gonna get Winterfell, and it's gonna look great, and there's gonna be a dragon, and the North is gonna be the North, and they're just gonna be chill.
They're gonna bang in front of a heart tree.
I wonder. Maybe
they're gonna go for that.
Gonna have Bran Stark's face in it, and it's all gonna come full circle.
Bro, what am I gonna do with these clutch of eggs? I hear you've got thermals under the castle.
No.
Do you have any Valyrian daggers that are secretly prophecy based?
Oh my god.
This will be an opportunity for the show to piss me off if they like lean too heavily into the like the White Walkers the White Walkers are coming, and like all that kind of stuff. Like
there's only one thing I need them to do is like when like at some point when he's up there, like maybe in the first couple of scenes, and like they're walking through a door, and I just need like either Cregan or Jace or somebody to be like, "Hey, hold that door."
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it makes sense, or since they brought it into season 1 about the prophecy, I think you can't get around having Jace mention it to Cregan as to why House Stark is so unambiguously on Team Rhaenyra, as and why they don't really demand that much in the grand scheme of things, because Cregan just asks for a betrothal of one of Jace's hypothetical future daughter, right? Or besides the Sarah Snow business.
Yeah.
But
he's like, we'll bro down and join houses someday,
Right. But we don't need anything deliverable now. We're good. And the
we're sure you will live long enough to
mother a child, and because then the considering you'll be riding a dragon in combat. Anyway, but like having reread Fire and Blood recently, the way Torrhen knelt was after a quick series of negotiations. Yeah, he knows that we can't fight this, but his brother, or right on the eve of that encounter, his half brother Brandon Snow was saying, "Hey, look, I have a secret magic method to kill a dragon, maybe." And maybe it was worth something, maybe it wasn't. But
yeah,
there was a lot of it's just like, well, I buy that Aegon knew, and that he used that information to win Stark's loyalty without a fight.
Does he in Fire and Blood, does he visit the wall?
Aegon? No.
No,
That was
just Aerys.
Oh no, he did not go to the wall. It was just Winterfell.
Do you think we'll get like a trip to the wall on the Dragonback? Or
It looked like we did in the trailer.
It looks like it, and you know what? That's okay if they need to pad more time. I'm going to reserve judgment until it comes out, and but in what Jace does is he also went to the Eyrie first. And,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is we probably have to see that first.
Yeah, we'd have to introduce Jane Arryn, the Maid of the Vale, and so Mushroom says that Jace won the lady's loyalty by going down on her, but
shows what Mushroom knows.
We need Mushroom so bad. Oh damn.
But no, but otherwise it's implied that she's gay. So
yeah, say that he delivered the Lord's kiss.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know it. How strong is this? They're pretty much the Starks of the Riverlands, right?
They were.
Do you guys think that they're going to be able to handle the dragon seeds kind of coherently? Because that can get so out of hand so fast.
It makes sense to combine Ulf the White and Hugh Hammer into one character, but I hope they don't cut Nettles. But that also depends if they want to give an extended role to Rhaena or Bela. Because then just what's the deal with Daemon singing to Vermithor?
Well, supposedly and Hugh have both best. I don't know who they are, but
really?
I did see that when I was looking to see if they had cast anyone as Nettles.
Yeah, Nettles has not been cast.
That's a bummer, but holding out hope. But it's also because you don't have. Yeah, you can get away with one betrayer, but then you need. You can probably find some other way to feed Rhaenyra's paranoia with regard to Daemon, but I
think they can definitely cast Nettles later. I mean, they could do it in season 3 if they want to do that, because the whole point is that she charms Sheepstealer kind of on her own, right? So that could definitely be something that happens. The beginning of the season or something.
Yeah, they can just introduce her throughout the, early parts of season 3. Just show her, feeding a dragon or feeding Sheepstealer his sheepies and having the then just having that come up on its own. But then, how do they get? They'll write it in somehow of just whoever's patrolling Dragonstone on Dragonback will say, "Oh, there, you have a dragon. Look. Report to the queen."
And she's like, "Yeah, I've been feeding him sheep. What of it?" I think that. This is why, since they cast both of them, it would make sense for Darren to show up at some point, because recalling back to the Dance of the Dragons, it's at one point the Blacks have such a dragon advantage. I mean, even though they don't have Vhagar, but they have way more dragons, and they're pretty much all useful, whereas Dreamfire is is knocked out right away, right? Because Helena's not doing anything.
And for what it's worth, Daron really comes into his own in the later half of the dance. There's a lot of initial fighting in the Reach, but Daron doesn't take to the field with Tessarion. There we go.
I was trying to remember his dragon's name.
And but it is a little. This is an interesting opportunity for this season, though, is to explain why. Or the official reason for what's going on in the Reach is that all the minor houses are basically taking their own side, but then it's just House Tyrell is trying to stay neutral because the current Lord Tyrell is a child with his mom as the regent. But then it's and House Tully tries to stay neutral too, which is even more bizarre considering everything that's going on in the Riverlands. Like, you think Daemon wouldn't have plopped down in the yard of Riverrun to demand allegiance first thing after taking Harrenhal. But the
you would think Daemon wouldn't have done a lot of things, to be fair.
right. but no,
Daemon says, "Hold my beer."
It's like the Knights in the Vale in the main story, right? It's something that Martin needs in his back pocket to really like draw out at the end, like like a fresh force to really, or to just like curb stomp everyone else who's weary from fighting. But the right. So anyway, but what's going on in the Reach is all the minor houses are taking their sides, and so that's going on. But then the High Towers consolidate everything, and they're marching to Bitterbridge, Templeton, and King's Landing in the end.
Ugh, so many places and houses to remember.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it is. So it's like they cast Maelor, but they still can't be bothered to name Terran for show.
Yeah. I'm glad we have that table that lights up to help us remember where everything is.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it was.
Like, I need to hang a map in this office. That's what I need.
Yeah, I listened on audiobook, and it was a lot trying to just remember or recall from memory where things were. Because
every good fantasy novel has a good map.
Yes.
Yeah.
My main takeaway from Fire and Blood is that Eleanor Costain totally killed Maelor, though.
Do you think that Daemon would be a second Maegor?
Yes. I mean, look, what was the platonic ideal is what never was, and just Daemon at his brother's side being his champion in the field. And that's what he's trying to get with Rhaenyra, but falls apart. And partially, and like their marriage kind of dies.
The trailer has her asking. Yeah, the trailer has her asking this season, like, do you accept me as queen? And then like there's this pause, and that could end up being a nothing conversation that's just for the trailer, where he's like, "Of course, babe. Like, why are you, on me?"
Right.
But they definitely are setting it up, and we know we covered this last season. One of the things I didn't like, because you have these Daemon stands, right? You have people that are like really, like, even with all the shit he's done, are like really into it, but then like they pull pretty much every time there's a chance to like soften him or like make him a little more human. Like, they shot a scene of him like hugging the daughters and then cut it out.
Yeah, I know. I wanted them to keep in the daughters just because it would, like you said in the chat, it would show him running hot and cold, and would actually like.
Yeah, there is a human side to him. Yeah, if you just want him to be like the nuclear weapon, like, I mean, I feel like he would be a little bit more destructive than he has been, which is, I guess, saying something.
Yeah, the way in which I think, look, I don't think he's interested in being king in his own right. I think, I don't think one, he doesn't want to bother with all the, the boring council stuff, right? He just wants to ride around on his dragon and burn night things for House Targaryen. But, I mean, he's, the big thing in the book was that he was arguing for Rhaenyra rewarding who would become the betrayers with seats like Highgarden seats like Storm's End and Casterly Rock. But Corlys is very much against that. And Rhaenyra ultimately sides with Corlys on that one. But, he's not wrong in the sense that, like, they need a suitable reward. And it's also in what's happened in the show is that, again, he's not wrong that, like, most normal people want to live a life free from petty urban crime. But, it's also
just start
that,
piling up the body parts.
Right. It's also not wrong that Rhaenyra at least needs to understand how the people view her. But
Yeah, we'll see if they handle the betrayers, but I think that'll be one of the trickier things and one of the
right, but
opportunities
then
for them to either fail or not.
Right.
But then part of the issue with the betrayers, I mean, look, I think that was going to happen anyway because someone, or if it wasn't Daemon floating that possibility, it would have been one of Clubfoot's agents whispering something like that
Right.
in their ear about there not
And
being
they were
adequately
two men
reported.
of such low character, really. I mean,
Right.
is what it is. At the end of the day, you're right. Like they need to be like they are fucking dragon riders. So like, yeah, man, when this is over, like you have to have some power, but then like they're kind of like stupid and shitty enough to be like, well, I could just be the king then. You're like, oh no. That's
Right.
not
Yeah.
Right, because it's like they try to like say, oh well, like let's or yeah, like there was another possibility of like reward them with the hands of daughters of noble houses and disinherit those girls' younger brothers to make them
and
the
yet
new
yeah.
lords, and then that's just like that's what Stannis would have done, but of just like like loyalty needs to be rewarded, and this is what happens when you choose the wrong side in a feudalistic conflict, or that's at least a risk.
Yeah.
This is when the story starts getting too complicated for me.
It's funny
I
because
think-
if we didn't have Vermithor and Sea Smoke, they probably still would have been fine, on the war effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, at least Alan and Adam have been cast. That's good.
Yeah. I think that at least Show Damon is very drawn to power, and I think that's kind of exemplified in his in his sexual encounters and in his you kind of see it come out with the last episode of the first season where he is fighting with Rhaenyra for that power. I think that that's going to play a big role in this season. I think he was always drawn to her because of the power that she will eventually or could eventually hold.
I agree.
And I think that I think that's why he does things like Blood and Cheese. I don't think he does it because he necessarily like I don't want to say that he's like that he's not evil, but like I don't think that's the reason why he's doing it. I think he's doing it because he knows that this is the way to get to power.
Yeah, I think he is being I think he's being set up as someone who, like, when he's like banished the very first time, right? Like, he is arguing for his handship, right? For being the hand to Viserys. And like it's kind of a Mobius strip, right? Like does he want fulfillment through power and would use that power responsibly, or does he want power and thus will be fulfilled and use it irresponsibly? It's like there's a lot of different ways to interpret Daemon, but I do think that they're at this point with his with the violent disappointment that he experienced when Rhaenyra told him about the prophecy, and like I just keep remembering in the finale, like when she's in labor and like not unlikely to die and is like screaming his name and he's just like, let's plan the war. And like I'm not discounting that there's some trauma there, whatever, but like still, he has his priorities, and I don't think the interpersonal is among them. I mean, like the whole like setting Rhaenyra up to take her to the bowels of the pleasure den in King's Landing or whatever was sort of to force Viserys' hand into making him marry her, right? Like,
right.
So like, and I'm not saying there isn't like personal psychological like stuff going on there, but the whole reason he was unhappy in Pentos was like, it's like what are we doing here,
Right, but then also there was the thread of like he has a little smirk when he gets the bulletin and the stepstones of that Viserys has finally relented and sent ships. and also that he, he really does want to be at his brother's side, and having the and on for the funeral episode at the reception, Viserys does give that to him, and he says, like, I'm, like, this is, like, this is happening, like 20 years too late for you. I understand this, but like, let's use the time that I have left to rule together. But then he says no, because, I think it's more of just the, like with Alicent at the dinner, of like this moment that he's dreamed about for so long feels hollow, because it doesn't feel as satisfying, partially because he's ruminated it for so long.
I definitely think it's a lot of that, although I do also wonder if he's like, I'm single, Rhaenyra's single, Viserys is never gonna say, or actually no, Rhaenyra's not single, right? But like, I wonder if he's, sensing the opportunity there and is kind of like choosing that particular path to power. Because I do ultimately think that the way Daemon envisioned this going, once he ended up with Rhaenyra, was eventually Viserys dies, Rhaenyra becomes queen, and I essentially rule through her. I more or less explicitly, depending on how things go. I also don't imagine that the three strong boys would have continued on terribly long in that circumstance, given that he has two male children by Rhaenyra, and he very strongly favors them. That's my view of Daemon kind of like stepping forward into this story. But and I don't know. I just don't think it's going to get better for him.
Maybe this is me, but I feel like in the first episode we get him sitting on the Iron Throne, and we hear all the time how Daemon wants the crown and Daemon wants to be king, but I never feel it from Daemon. Like
he wants to be valued by his brother. That's it.
That's what it is. I feel like he wants like to be valued for what he is. And he wants to like have a certain kind of position and standing. And I don't necessarily know, like most of the season, I feel like if you were like, all right, buddy, you're king, I feel like he would be like, well, shit. But he does stuff that certainly goes that way. It just doesn't feel like it in the performance.
Right. It's just like, he doesn't want to be deciding matters of taxation and diplomacy and blah, blah, blah. He just wants to be asked, Daemon, you're so great. Can you go burn things on Caraxes, please?
Yeah, he wants the power to be Daemon all the time with none of the responsibility of the king.
Yeah, but most people who have taken on the role of Viserys wanted that. Like they said a million times, Rhaenys would have been 10 times better of a queen than he was a king, because she cared about ruling, and Viserys wanted to go to his country estate and build historical models, And
he would have had a baller-ass estate.
Yes.
Come over and play Legos.
I mean, he probably would have been like one of the like intellectuals that people were like, man, he was a real thinker, that guy,
Yeah, he would have gone down as like one of the best Targaryens.
Roderick the Reader almost type,
Yeah.
Again, are there any Targaryens who aren't motivated by narcissism?
Welcome, Jock.
Yeah,
There are good ones. I mean, we got Egg, Viserys,
Jaehaerys, and Alicent.
Jaehaerys.
I don't like Jaehaerys.
Yeah, no, Jaehaerys is a jerk,
Blasphemy.
and most of the good things are from Alicent still.
Exactly. And he was a terrible father.
Oh, yeah.
You can definitely put most of them on some kind of scale of narcissism, which is like, from like extreme to a little bit.
Baelor Breakspear, we don't see enough of him, but
he is a literary construct. I reject the unilateral goodness of Peter Breakspear. So I have to.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Dunk is so well versed in politics that there's room for further graying if Byron Blood Part 2 ever comes out.
I mean, we'll see. There definitely might be, but I mean, him remembering Sir Arl, I don't know. I feel like he's just like literally like the perfect prince, and then it's like, no, the perfect prince cannot be,
Can't have that. Let's kill him.
What was I gonna say? I wanted to ask your guys' opinion on just a theme I've been thinking of, because I very much, I mean, it was very explicit in season 1, but like the idea of like corruption, both like politically and even like, you know, Viserys' body as a rotting entity, you know, and like the Targaryen family collapsing in this way. I don't know if we have anything that like, you know, specifically indicates how this theme will play out this season, but it's kind of one of my things that I'm like, I feel like you can't understand the show unless you like keep this idea in mind. And I'm curious, what you guys think about it.
An interesting thing to do would be to have Aegon get cut on the Iron Throne, assuming that they're not having Rhaenyra retake King's Landing this season. To have Aegon get nicked on the throne after, you know, he just says, "I want more vengeance" after Blood and Cheese, or if he after his Rook's Rest victory party.
Doesn't he get fucked up after Rook's Rest?
Oh yeah, he is. So that is really after Blood.
Yeah,
it's really the only option to have him set the throne.
Oh yeah, because
he was so fucked up after that. He's in bed and just like drugged out of his mind. And then he recovers only to go to Dragonstone and then get injured again against Moondancer.
Yeah, he gets taken out for a large portion too.
I mean, we could also see it within the dragons themselves. Maybe that's where the theme will take kind of hold, because this is going to be the end of the dragons for now. So
maybe they can say this many dragon's eggs have turned to stone, or
or like it's just simply getting battered from battle.
Will we see Dany's eggs spirited away at some point in the show?
No, that was Alyssa Farman back in Rhaena's time, during the reign of Jaehaerys, early.
Yeah, they could change that though.
I thought that was like enough. I thought that was not certain in the books, but I feel like that's something for the show that they would be like, "Hey, look at these 3 eggs going across the sea," you know.
They can do that in the show if they want, but I think it's pretty clear in the book that the eggs that Alyssa Farman stole and gave to the Iron Bank were the ones that would become Dany's eggs.
Yeah, I mean, I can still see them doing something at the end, like the last episode, I guess, on that.
That's what I'm thinking. It'd be like an Easter egg thing towards the end. It's like you may not even notice it, you know.
Like I think all the Song of Ice and Fire, all the Song of Ice and Fire stuff that you're gonna get from this season, I think, is really gonna be at the north, but we'll see. I would not be surprised if they try to sneak some other things in there like they did with last season.
What do you think? Daemon and Rhaenyra are gonna have another discussion, or after his outburst, she's like, "We're not doing prophecy chat." I don't even have the dagger here, so
I think that's it for at least Daemon and Rhaenyra. I wouldn't be surprised if she like tries to talk to one of her sons about it, but otherwise, I'd see them going into more turmoil of the power struggle in general.
Each of them right before they die.
Well, I think Jace would already know if he's to win Lord Stark over with that, and he's already right? So I don't know, maybe they have make-up sex and then he goes to Harrenhal.
Oh, speaking of Harrenhal, I mean, I gotta go soon, but we should mention Alice Rivers.
On the way. Oh, yes, I want to see what they do with her so bad.
She's a great actress. Gwen Rankin? Gail Rankin.
I don't know that name, but
she played the Wolf Girl in Glow, and she's currently starring as Sally on Broadway with Eddie Redmayne in Cabaret.
Oh, that's her.
She'd be good. Okay, yeah, that's good casting. I like that.
Has anybody seen like constant clips of that one part of the trailer where somebody is it's either Alice Rivers or somebody else, and supposedly Daemon's hand caressing it, but it's definitely not Rhaenyra. Supposedly.
Yeah, so I heard an
Mysterio?
interpretation again with the kind of like desperate desire to ship to ship Helena and Aemon, that it's like that he's sleeping with like a Helena lookalike. And I'm like, guys, I don't know. Again, I'm theoretically for it, but you gotta show me some more evidence.
Yeah, that was like the weirdest season. The I guess because at one point he's like, well, I could marry her and be king or something, but
Yeah, it was a very strong
that's
divide
like-
between like the people who think it's like legit canon and the people who are like, I don't know what you're talking about. On which side I firmly land, at least for now.
So-
Look, if they actually want to go for it this season, then it's powerful because they end up dying on the same day, leagues apart from each other. But
maybe
that
she
presumes
presents
that-
him with a sapphire eye.
That presumes that, like she actually takes her own life and it's not one of Clubfoot's agents.
Yeah, and so with that one clip, I've been seeing a lot of things on TikTok that it might be Emma, like they might be doing a flashback.
Oh.
And it, like the side profile, it does look similar to her, but all the Targaryens kind of look really similar, so like I don't know. But I thought that it would be interesting to do a flashback. I did have a thought that maybe Emma's or Rhaenyra's father is not really Viserys, but I think
And
that's
his Daemon is dead because we need to make this grosser than it already
Yes.
You just made it so much that I don't know why that amplified it like to 100 for me, but somehow I'm like used to like the uncle niece, but is also like a cousin / whatever thing. Somehow when you add dad into that, I'm just like, no. That's my line. We're done.
Bridge too far.
Oh man, I don't know. I think it's probably just like Daemon sleeping around and like Miss Arya giving him, some blonde ladies. That's
Yeah, I think it feels more. It makes more sense with his storyline that he's just looking for more power, and he gets that from having sex with other women. That is not Rhaenyra because that's all he can do.
yeah.
Plus, we see. I think there was a clip going around of more of Daemon and Rhaenyra fighting, which I know is a bit of a conflict in the fandom, but
I struggle with people who are like Daemon's a good person. Like
same.
I look, I love Alicent. I even really like Kristen Cole the way they've set him up. They're not good people. Like, like they're going to do bad things because they're bad people.
Yeah, he's not a good person.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, all these shows they do well is all these characters are gray. They're some shade of gray. There are good qualities that there's some things that Daemon has done that I've been like, yes, when he put the crown on his brother when he was almost dead, as he was getting to the Iron Throne. Like there's some kind of goodness in him. That being said, I think that the show has very much exemplified, or maybe it is even making us feel the way that Rhaenyra is feeling when we see them, go from, we're a power couple to, oh my god, he what the fuck is he doing to her by choking her. And I think that we'll see more of that to come. And it will probably increase, it'll probably get worse.
Yeah.
And
he doesn't have to be a good sport about Rhaenyra not taking his preferred course of action and listening to Corlys instead. But yeah, I mean, like the last straw for him is really the guest right stuff at Maidenpool. But
gonna have to refresh my memory, Stephanie, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
What happened there?
So after Rhaenyra takes King's Landing, so he's Daemon is at Rhaenyra's side as she ascends the Iron Throne and spends all night judging the captives in the Red Keep. And then that's when Daemon suggests, like a suitable reward for the betrayers or for, etc. But then I believe after that he departs for the Riverlands to try to smoke out Vhagar, because what they did to take King's Landing is that Daemon was based in Harrenhal, but then they baited Aemond and Crispy out to go try to meet him in battle. But then what Daemon did was all of Team Black was coordinated for taking King's Landing once Vhagar was out of the way, because by that time Helena was out of commission and so was Sunfire. So that left Vhagar as I believe the only dragon defending King's Landing. So once Vhagar was gone,
Vhagar was pretty much their whole power, and
right,
this is where Aemond is like, I could be king.
Right. So then, once Vhagar was baited out of King's Landing, they moved in to take King's Landing. But then they still had to go deal with Vhagar. So Daemon and Nettles left to go smoke Vhagar out in the Riverlands. And they were using Maidenpool as a base of operations to do that because they'd surrendered Harrenhal to Aemond. And that's when Aemond shacked up with Alice Rivers and but then after Rhaenyra's paranoia reached a boiling point, she ordered the Lord of Maidenpool to kill Nettles, and spare Daemon, which is the stupidest thing to ever demand, because then they'd have to deal with Daemon and get him to accept that. But so then after that, Daemon just camped out at so I guess Vhagar was also running around the Riverlands by that point. So then Daemon went back to Harrenhal and just marked the days on the Weirwood and the God's Eye, the Weirwood and the Godswood, not on the God's Eye, at Harrenhal. And on the 13th day, Aemond showed up.
And then they have it down. Is that happening this year? I mean, that's not going to be until next year, right?
No.
I mean, that's going to be a final season.
Yeah, canonically that takes place on the same day as Helena's purported suicide. So that's when the uprising in King's Landing happens.
I have no doubt that they're working very hard to coordinate all this time.
No, that would have
ground to cover after.
Yeah, storming the Dragon Pit would have to be, so if there were 4 seasons, I would put it at the end of the 3rd season, but we don't know how many seasons there will be, right?
Or maybe a couple episodes into the 4th season if you want to try to keep the actors around a little longer.
Right, but then at the because you could do that, but then you have to show afterwards. I mean, you can end the 3rd. Yeah. You could end a season. You could end a season with the death of the dragons and with the death of Joffrey, and Rhaenyra leaving the Red Keep. But then you could start a new season with showing her getting turned away by people she passed over at the or in deciding their inheritances in the Crownlands, and also you can have her treading water a little bit, waiting to hear back from Winterfell and the Eyrie about reinforcements, but then you have to get her to Dragonstone to die.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that I feel like they let's say this is a 4-season show. I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked to see if they have a plan, but
last I heard was 3 seasons.
3 seasons would maybe make more sense, but if you're cutting them to 8 episodes instead of 10, but let's say if it were 4 seasons, I just don't think they want a season where you open the season and the potential for big bad dragon battles is gone. So right. I can't see that as being something just from a marketing standpoint.
But then you'd have to. But then you could have Templeton. We'd have to have second Templeton with Adam against the Betrayers. And,
that's true.
With Tessarion. So.
And I guess if you don't have those characters yet, so they could be developed. That those could be very popular characters once they come around. But
right, and it depends on how much of the Regency you want to go over, and also because Corlys gets some good moments in that, and also but then you let Lord Stark take center stage. but then but yeah, then there were dragon battles, but I don't see how they can, or they would, for me, like, the show has to end a season on Rhaenyra bloody on the Iron Throne. Like, one of these alleged or seasons. Like, how do you not end a season?
Ending this is going to be so hard. Like,
right.
Like ending it with what happens afterwards, with as much happens kind of after the principals have left, like how much they're going to cover, how much time they would take to cover that if they do.
I really don't think that they're going to cover the Regency. I feel like that is getting into...
Or at least the Hour of the Wolf, I mean.
I don't know, even. Like, I feel like once Rhaenyra is off stage, like... I mean, to me, and I'm nobody asked me, but I personally see, like, the last shot of the series being, like, an old Alicent, like, kind of standing next to Rhaenyra's Aegon on the throne, and, like, that is kind of how these two, like, this war concludes.
Right, but Alicent could not be reconciled, so she was locked in her chambers. And
yeah, but that's what the book says. I would not be surprised if, you know.
So no Clegane just showing up and going, "You're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead."
Oh, it could happen. It could just happen after. I mean, like.
Yeah, I want to see that. I just don't know. Like, I mean, just like pacing, and I just don't know what you do there.
No, I think you got to have at least one episode where Cregan is center stage, and then he resigns his hand and rides north. But then that's too, like, if that's too saccharine for this series, which on all these executions, that's.
I don't need to see anyone riding into the north again as a final shot. I think I'm good.
That's what I was about to say. I think that if they were going to do that, it could be a lot of off-screen stuff. I mean, it could, you could have a few exposition scenes with Cregan if we spend enough time here developing him as someone you want to come back. Then you could, he could be talking about how many people he's executed, whatever. Like, all right, mic drop, I'm out.
No, but you got to show.
You could dedicate much less time to it.
How do you not show Larys getting executed, though? It's
No, there's a few, like, the principal characters of this show all have to be dealt with at some point.
But I mean, they don't have to do that via Cregan. Like, they can have Rhaenyra, execute him, or like,
that's true.
But like, Clubfoot's in hiding to orchestrate or at least fan the flames of the King's Landing uprising and storming the Dragon Pit. But what was I going to say? Yeah, no, she definitely, like, has auto beheaded first thing when she lands in King's Landing, no question. But it's
that'll be a moment.
What was I going to say? No, I think they have. I mean, that's kind of like Michal, you're much more up to speed on this than I am. But isn't it a very Shakespearean thing that Cregan rides in at the end?
For sure. Yeah. Like planting him early, and then having him come back is kind of like the hand of justice. Maybe I'm biased just because I always thought that he was overrated for, like, the badassery, because I'm like...
No, he definitely is, but...
Well, also, like, the trauma that this enacts, that watching all of these executions enacts on Aegon the Unhappy or whatever, Unlucky, it's like, it's awful. It's really horrible. I'm a little bit less,
But it's like, why do the Starks fuck off back to Winterfell pretty much forever? Like.
Right. I mean, it is total Boba Fett syndrome of just, like, he's there and doesn't have much. But then that's kind of everybody in this book besides Rhaenyra and Daemon.
And I think the show watchers love the Starks. I mean, they spent 8 seasons with Stark, so, like, I feel like expanding Winterfell and Cregan makes the most sense. But, like I said, I don't know.
It does, but I don't think they have to think that they have to rely on that. Like, there was one Stark for 2 seconds in season 1, and the show did really well. So, like, I don't necessarily think they have to be like...
Oh, no. Yeah, I don't think they need it either. But, I mean, I think that's the obvious temptation.
Yeah.
But, like I said, we'll see. We'll have a better idea once the season airs of what all that's going to look like.
This is true. We're talking about stuff in, like, 2 seasons down the line. We don't know.
I'm like, I don't know. 3 seasons, 5. Kenzie. We're gonna have Dunk and Egg.
My
do you
prediction,
think?
honestly, my prediction is 4 seasons, and they pivot very quickly to the Conqueror storyline, and do
What?
that under the title House of the Dragon.
You think they're gonna? Oh, you think it'll be like a House of the Dragon type story, like
Almost
House of the
anthology,
Dragon,
yeah.
like Conquest or something? Or,
Yeah.
yeah.
They do like 30 seasons until they reach Dunk in the timeline.
I know,
Oh
because
my gosh!
everyone wants Geralt to be Aegon the Conqueror, and
Ugh,
honestly,
I don't. Ugh.
I don't hate that. No, I don't hate that at all. He's like got the right presence and the right build and all that.
I don't like it. Have you guys seen the little baby child playing Egg?
I did. I saw that earlier.
He's on. I mean, his parent. It skeeves me out a little bit because he's clearly like an actor child, and like I guess his parents are like very on top of his social media as far as like making things look very slick and whatever. But like it's still kind of cute. Like I mean, he has a whole video where he gets his head shaved, and like you could tell he is not happy at the end of it, but he's like trying.
Oh, see, my son would be so excited. My son actually shave his head. He looks a lot like Egg.
Oh yeah.
He like for years he wanted me to do bald hair. He wants to go bald hair, and so one year I did. I shaved his head, and he was like, oh, like his hair was out of his eyes. He was like so happy. So.
Aww. Well,
yeah, but I recommend. His name is Dexter Ansel, and he's on. Actually, so is Peter Claflin, who's playing Dunk. There was a cute little video of them playing like air hockey or something.
And it's perfect. He's so young; they can get through all of the Dunk and Egg stuff before he grows up. There's plenty of time. It's great. There's no way.
It is incredible that we keep doing this.
George, finish the book.
I mean, they can also just write it in time skip. It's not so crazy that because I mean, even in the second Dunk and Egg, they said that like we spent this long in Dorne trying to look for Tansel, right?
Right.
So they can just cut to it, and like Egg can be 20 years old and still Dunk Squire.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. They can age him up, and I mean they have 3 solid stories from Dunk and Egg to work off of, and I'm really excited for that. See how that goes.
And AI's getting a lot better. Soon we'll be able to automate George.
I'm sure they've tried.
Yeah. Has anyone shown George ChatGPT?
Oh God!
Shut up! Shut your mouth.
No, I
all the writers.
I don't pressure George. If he never gives us anything else, I mean, I'm fine with that. So
the real book was the friends we made along the way.
That's exactly right, Stephanie. That's exactly right.
And the tear rolls down our face. Oh no.
Oh, all right. On that note, let's wrap this up. Does anybody have any kind of final thoughts or predictions or anything going into season 2 here they want to throw out there?
Daemon bad.
Shocking.
But he's fun.
Damon bad, you can still like him. It's fine. It's fiction.
Oh no!
I was gonna say Daemon bad, but Daemon gonna be popular.
Oh yeah.
The Daemon memes will not be stopped.
No,
I'm not on Twitter anymore, so it's going to be very strange for me to like not know what the general like panic is about week to week.
Go to Threads.
See, I never really did Twitter and stuff, but I know like there's like Facebook groups, like for House of the Dragon, they just post all the good memes that I steal from, every week. So I'll probably do that.
TikTok's for.
All right. Well, so all I can say is thank you guys, everybody, for joining us, and I look forward to we're gonna have like all of our cast back up running again in a couple weeks. I know DragonCast will be back, and hopefully we've got a lot of wayward vassals that'll funnel in. We'll call the banners here and see what happens. So yeah. I gotta get break out the old House of the Dragon wine. I think I got another bottle somewhere.
Yeah.
Um,
And not
Anyway,
showing
guys.
up to the cast is treason.
This is
That
the
was the Rhaenyra
all
cocktail.
Targaryen tent.
Hey, I was Wolfcast.
There's no black fires in here though. But all right, guys, you take it easy.
All right, have a good one, guys.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Adam.
see you.